Hi, Sherry. How are you doing?
Hi, Karen. Thanks for having me on your show. Yeah, nice to be here.
I'm so glad that you're taking a little time off your busy schedule.
No
And
problem.
when I met you at the second act event, and what you gave during the fire chat during that event, it really resonated because I took upon myself to learn about investing and to understand where our financial is and all that. Although in general, women are always tasked with handling the finances. I always see a lot of companies where they say, oh, my wife is handling the HR and the finance. But it's still strange to me that there's so many women who are very lacking of knowledge in terms of what their finances should be, how they, and then they get a little surprise, especially if their spouse pass on and they're left with perhaps nothing much or even in heavy debt. First off, tell us about yourself first.
Oh, yeah. I think that's exactly where we're starting from. The fact that women don't have that kind of knowledge on personal finance, as you said, their career wise, I think they're quite good at all these things. So a bit about myself.
Mm.
I'm Sherry. I co-founded Wahine Capital.
Mhm.
Our company is called Wahine Capital together with a partner. My partner is Regina Rahim.
Mhm.
So she's a fund manager, or she used to head a fund management company, and I used to be in the Securities Commission, and then I moved on to women's rights. So we thought we had all the sort of necessary elements
Yeah.
to go into. We had the corporate side, we had the women's rights side, and we had the sort of ethical regulatory side as well.
Mhm.
And that's why we decided to go into Wahine Capital. Wahine Capital basically started around about COVID. During COVID days when you used to go on evening walks because you couldn't do anything else.
True.
So I used to go on a lot of walks with my partner Regina.
Uh-huh.
And at that time, she was going through just grieving because she just lost her sister.
Oh.
Uh, and also at the same time managing her sister's estate, and she was just explaining how complicated it was. So she started talking about how to make this journey a little bit easier. So it started off by looking at how women can protect themselves, or ensure that they're provided for should someone important to you like your father or your husband pass on.
Mhm.
At least you will know where all the assets are, you know how to access it, and you can continue to live
Mhm.
your life, as opposed to your assets being stuck somewhere because of all the legal process.
Mhm.
So that was the initial idea, and then after that, when I started thinking about it, I had just not just but a few years been through a divorce.
Right.
And during my divorce, one of the biggest worries, gave me sleepless nights, was how am I going to manage myself
Yeah.
financially.
Mm.
I was very afraid, and I was a working woman. I had savings, and but still, I didn't know whether I could put food on the table and be comfortable and give my two children whatever they needed,
Right.
to the extent that I could afford. So I think in the end, what we came up with was something a bit more broad based to
Mhm.
cover the different situations that women find themselves,
Right.
whether it's being single or being divorced or having children,
Mhm.
or going through retirement, or death of a spouse, and so on and so forth, and
Mhm.
how that affects women. And then go into how we can make them financially more stable in facing those situations. Because
Yeah.
I think the way we look at it, I mean, the emotional trauma that is something you're already going through, and if you have the financial
Yeah,
issues on
added.
top of it, it's
Mm,
even more. I was almost like, I was very, very scared. I had days when I was catatonic, because just thinking, how do I do this? Because yeah, even I, at that stage, a working woman, I think by that time I would have worked about 15-20 years already. Even I was just, I felt myself so reliant
mm,
on that family structure financially, right?
right.
Especially my then husband, that I didn't think, I didn't know how I could have managed. But yeah, but eventually you learn. But the idea is to prepare yourself
Mm,
financially, so that you're stable, so that if anything untoward happens,
yeah,
then you're at least stable.
yeah,
The financial side of it is
right.
already taken care of, in a
Right.
sense.
I mean, I, as you said, you are already working. You were in the workforce, and even you get nervous. I can't imagine women who dedicated their lives to be a homebody and take care of the family, and they don't have a real source of income.
Yeah,
How
yeah,
they must feel, that stress level, I can just imagine.
yeah.
So what resonated with you, with me about what you do was that you really focus on the women's point of view, and how especially you talk about investing earlier and all that. And women tend to be very scared about investing. Am I right to say that?
Yeah, I mean, that is the stereotype of what people think of women, as well as what women think of women,
Yeah.
that they are not as good at it, or they will fail if they try. I
Right.
think that is the mindset, and that is the big challenge that we have, is to change that mindset. Yeah, so we actually did a lot of research in this area, just to sort of throw out information in order to change women's ideas about investing.
Mm.
And in the more developed countries, they have very good data. Not as, I think, extensive in Malaysia,
Mm.
but say in America, there's research after research that shows that women tend to do better than men in terms of investment returns
Yep.
in the long term. But we have to look at the long term, obviously. So I think there is this idea that men do better, but perhaps they do better, they go in and out, they're a bit more short term, whereas women, when they invest, they might have a different um, approach to what they want out of investing. And that goes back to what you want out of money.
Mm.
And money for women usually means a sense of stability and security, and not just for yourself, but also for everyone around you. So your children, your parents, whoever that you're caring for.
Mm.
And that means that women tend to be a bit more cautious, a bit more careful, a bit
Mm.
more they take time to make their decisions. So that those are the kind of sort of behavioral traits that women have towards investing.
Mm.
But that doesn't lead to not being good at investing.
Yeah, totally
I think
agree.
that's what we need to change.
Mm.
We are a different category of investors. We
Exactly.
look at investments differently, and we consider different information when
Exactly.
we want to invest.
Yeah.
We are an important category. And as the studies show, I mean, there's Wharton Business School, there's all these fund management companies as well,
Mm.
that show that women can make between 0.8 to 1.4% more than
Man.
their male clients over
Right.
a period of time. There is a positive side
It,
to
yeah,
women in investing. And if
exactly.
you look abroad, Karen, there are more and more people, and I think it's starting in Malaysia, but in the more developed countries, there are more and more people targeting women as investors, because we as women, I mean, our grandparents' generation, our parents' generation, they didn't have as much disposable income.
True.
Today's woman, you work, you have money in hand, but usually, the women that we have come across, at least, they keep it in their fixed deposit
Yeah.
or somewhere in which they think they keep it in insurance, or they keep it in
Yeah.
something quite sort of
Conservative, right?
static.
Yeah.
And so they don't make the most out of their own money. You have to make your money work for you in today's world.
Exactly. I totally agree. And I think there is that idea of investment. So when we talk about an investor, we are talking long term. So at least a 5 year term, 10 year term.
Yeah,
And traders are more the short term. So it could be a day trader, a 1 month trader, 8 9 months trader. But women, as you say, in general, they do tend to be more careful, and they're looking at the longer haul kind of thing. So there's money to be made in all, whether you're a trader or an investor, but it's how I think the risk appetite for women is very, very
yeah.
different, right? That's
Yeah,
it's
the risk
just in our
appetite
character.
is one thing, but also because men go in and out a bit more regularly than women, they also make losses along the
Of
way. So
course.
when you take into account the losses, then the
Mm.
profits are not as much as women.
Yeah, yeah,
Whereas women allow it to accumulate because you just leave it there for the
correct,
long term.
correct.
I mean, that is one thing that we have noticed, that a lot of women tend to just stick with one. They don't come in and out as often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how does Wahini Capital help women to rebuild this confidence, as you say, in and
Yeah.
building that financial confidence?
Yeah. I mean, I think we're talking. Your program is about midlife.
Yes.
So maybe we're talking about women in their 40s onwards.
Yeah.
So, well, one thing is that it's never too late, and I would advise that the starting point would be to know where you are right now. So
Mm.
you would be surprised that a lot of people don't have a good, idea of where they are financially today. They know that they have this much savings, or they have this much in EPF, or they have this much in ASB, but holistically they can't see that dashboard. So I think that's the first thing you need to do.
Mm.
Whether you want to use an Excel spreadsheet or whatever way that is
Mm.
easy for you.
Mhm.
But we at Wahine Capital, we've prepared sort of a easy to use platform. It's
Okay.
called W Vault.
Mhm.
So we've categorized it. You have your bank accounts, you have your all the unit trusts or other sort of insurance,
Right.
and all the categories of assets that you can have, including if you have crypto.
Mhm.
And then we've also categorized the liabilities, which are your loans, your personal loans, or any other mortgages that you might have. That sort of helps you trigger your thinking what you might have out there. And then it provides you a dashboard to see where you are. So, our idea is that once you know where you are, then you can start thinking about the future, right? So,
Mhm.
at least if you have a good indication of where you are, you can start thinking about how I want based on what I have right now, how
Right.
I want my future to look like. So the second thing that you need to do is you need to have a plan. You have your goals set out.
Mm.
So we have a structured way of how you look at goals, whether it's an immediate goal, like if you want to plan for a holiday,
Mm.
or whether it's a 10-20 year goal when you're looking at how you're going to live during your retirement. So that's the second step we would suggest. And
Right.
the third step is to start a budget. So a lot of people also don't have an ongoing budget. So we have
Mm.
budget templates as well. So you can track your incoming, your outgoing from there, determine how much you can save and put it in, we recommend an emergency savings fund before you start any investment. So there are certain steps that you need to take even before investing. We
Okay.
would suggest you have an emergency fund of between 3 to 6 months,
Right.
just in case something happens,
Yep.
just in case you cannot access, whatever fund investments that you have. Even some investments can be locked, or it might not be a good time to sell down. Then you need cash
Yeah.
on hand.
Yeah.
Secondly, we would suggest that you pay down all your high interest credit, and that one of them is credit card. So a lot of people rely on, sort of an ongoing basis on their credit card, right?
Yeah.
They pay a little bit, then they
Correct.
take more credit, then they pay a little bit, then they take more credit.
Mm.
And from our research, we've seen that at the end of the day, you end up paying much, much more,
Oh
because the
yeah.
interest rate can be up to about 12 to 18%, depending on the credit card company.
Right.
So why are you paying this 18% when you could just clear your credit card and use that 18%, put it somewhere else, right? So our priority is to pay off high interest credit card. And when all these basic steps are done, you've got your medical, health insurance. Medical is one thing that we feel is particularly important because of the cost of
Medical.
medical services now.
Yeah.
Once you have all the building blocks in place, then we start looking at how much you can put aside to start your investment journey. The
Right.
thing about investment is that the money that you put into investment, you need to be comfortable enough to know that you might lose it. Not necessarily all of it, but investments are up and down, right?
Right.
So you might have to take a loss at any point in time. You need to be able to take that loss and not fall into like a terrible financial situation.
Right.
So yeah, so that, I think that's how we plan out how to go on that personal finance journey.
And this is available on the W Walk that you
Well, W Vault is just to organize your
yeah, give you
financial
perspective, like, yeah,
information.
like give
Yeah.
you perspective.
So in terms of like the journey that you have to take, we do either face to face training, or we have a series of short videos, like 15-minute videos. So we can provide the link later, Karen, in
Yes,
your
yeah.
in the comments.
Mm.
We call it a video series on financial wellness.
Wow.
So we talk about everything, including things like inheritance planning,
Yeah.
because it can be quite complex, including things about protecting yourself now, because when you're older, that's when things like financial abuse start happening,
True.
or when you cannot walk,
Yeah.
or when you're bedridden. That's when your money you have to know what you can do with your money, because that's when people will come in and
Yeah,
try and
it's trying to
swindle you
scam.
out
Yeah,
of your money when
exactly.
you're at your lowest, right?
Yeah.
So I think these are the things that we talk about in the videos. Yeah.
I'm so glad that you're doing this because I just feel like just because usually the financial world is usually male dominated. So to have someone coming in as a female perspective, and I know my community will really appreciate this because there are a lot maybe in a very unhappy relationship where the husband is using money to control them, so
Yes.
hopefully to give them some hope that this is a way to get out of it,
Yeah.
or and I see it, and I'm really proud to even just knowing you just
Yeah,
make me.
Karen, we have met quite a few financial planners,
Mm,
and increasingly, this is something that actually surprised me. But increasingly, women are becoming obviously becoming smarter financially, but they are planning towards divorce. So if you are in a situation where this thing can't last, it's bad, that one day you have to get out of this marriage.
mm,
So there are women out there who actually plan 1 year, 2 years in advance, so that when the time comes and they actually sign the divorce papers, they're more stable.
Yeah.
So some women tell me things like, if I have to leave the home very suddenly, I have enough, for 6 month rental. If
Yeah.
I suddenly have to, so they plan slowly towards that. Yeah, so I mean, especially in abusive relationships, that's I think a very
Yeah.
difficult conversation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Financial abuse is a type of domestic violence,
Yep.
and it's very common as well. And it goes hand in hand with physical and mental abuse as well.
Yeah.
So it is a very difficult. So I think part of it is also to have people like us, people like you, who people can reach out to, right? Because if you don't have money, and on top of that, you're being
Yeah.
curtailed in terms of your movement, in terms of what you can say, in terms of the friends you
No,
can
it's not
have.
alive.
Yeah, it's very difficult. It's
It
very
really is.
difficult, and you really need the community, which is
Exactly.
why it's important,
Yeah.
for women like us to contribute wherever we can.
Exactly. And I'm so glad that you have the platform like the Vault, just giving basic financial knowledge, and the Life Vault as
Life
well.
of
Yeah, Life
W,
of
yeah.
W, which is the short videos, right? Which I'll put all the link for everyone. Please subscribe and follow Sherry on this, because this is something so important we cannot deny. And even if you have young girls, for your children, why not start them young? Get them involved now, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I think one thing, my own personal experience is that while I've been managing my finances, I haven't had like serious shocks. Like things like bankruptcy and all, touch wood. But that hasn't happened to me. But I've been doing it in a sort of an unconscious way,
Okay.
not thinking about the big picture in a sense. So since Wahine started, I'm thinking a lot more about how women are, if they are in this situation, how I want my retirement to look like, how I'm gonna live once I don't have an income, how am I gonna get money in coming in if I no longer work.
Yeah.
Things like, I've started thinking about it a lot more, and like you said, I think I've started being a little bit more pushy with my daughter. So
Yeah.
she's working. My son is still studying,
Right.
but I've pushed her into things like get a property early if
Yeah.
you have extra money. I've pushed her into uh, thinking about all these things early as well. So
Mm.
I think you're right. Once you are financially aware, then you start
Yeah.
influencing your children as well, in terms of what behavior they have towards money as well, right?
Yeah,
So
and I think because the other thing, you're a mom, and I'm sure with the new generation, this instant gratification, and
yeah,
wanting, and then the thing is they don't see physical money, they just see the phone going beep, beep,
yeah,
so it's very surreal, and they may not know how to be accountable because they're not
yeah.
seeing the actual
Yeah, so that
transaction.
was what was happening. Like Karen, my daughter started
Right.
working. She
Uh-huh.
had a decent salary, and then I saw all the Shopee, Lazada, all arriving at the
Right.
house.
Yes, right.
And
Yeah.
I just thought, I think she's just like enjoying her money, which she should be doing. But
Right.
at the same time, it's obvious she has, some disposable income that she should be doing something for the long term. So that's when I pushed her to,
Yeah.
put this money into, open your ASB account, go and look for property that's
Correct.
affordable and all these other things. And now she's very very careful about money, and she has a proper budget. She will tell me, oh, this month I cannot do this or this because I don't have. Even yesterday we were going to watch a movie. I cannot go and watch movie here, it's more expensive. We have to go for the cheaper movie. So and I like it. I like
Yes.
the fact that she's always thinking about it, because she has that my monthly budget is like this, and therefore if I spend more, I have to start cutting down here and there,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah, yeah. We're
Yeah,
not saying you don't enjoy, but you need to
yeah,
pace yourself, right? Because
exactly.
with inflation, even like with my children, I keep saying, don't just count on your salary, because inflation is moving faster than what
Correct,
your pay raise can cover,
correct.
which
Yeah,
means, think about assets, whether it's property or in stocks or funds, whatever it may be, but at least something to hedge over the increasing inflation, which is,
yeah,
it's crazy, it's
yeah,
insane right now. And
yeah, yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah, you're right. Salary doesn't,
no,
increase as fast as inflation. And medical costs, Karen,
I
medical
know.
inflation is about double digit. I
Yes,
think it's around 12%, if I'm not mistaken. 12%, and your salary goes up what, between 3 to 5
three to
percent.
five. I know, right?
Yeah, so it's these things that you have to think about. I mean,
Exactly.
the young people, they don't think about medical and
Yeah.
a retirement fund and things like that, but at the same time, I have to tell you, Karen, when we are on our social media and we have events and all, it's the 25 and above who are very engaged
Right.
with us. So I think maybe
Hopefully
the
that
new
will change.
generation, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, they're taking things right from the start, taking
Correct.
things into their own hands,
Exactly.
possibly,
I
yeah,
think
to
that's
some
super
extent.
important. And that's why I believe that women are great educators, because we are the mother, we are the nuclear in every family. And if we start teaching them, hopefully they don't have to deal with this kind of, especially the female children, that they don't have to have this worry that we have. I'm not saying boys don't have, I'm sure they do too.
Mm,
um,
mm,
and you're right, medical expenses are getting so expensive. And like last year when the hike came out, everyone from all
ah,
walks of life, and they know, the insurance company know, they have monopoly, which we have no say in it. And if we
yeah,
stop, we are the ones who will suffer, not them. They just throw us
yeah,
aside. So
yeah.
going back to Wahini, I would love to hear if you have any successful stories that you can share with us.
So we've had uh, a few sessions on face to face, and the feedback has been very, very heartwarming. And why we like to do the face to face is because we get stories. So we
Mm,
get stories about people's relationship with their father and why it's a problem, and how money sort of
yeah.
makes is a feature of that. So there was that story, and one of the participants, about 3 months later, emailed me and said, "Oh, since that, because we also teach soft skills.
Mm,
So we teach you how to talk about money
mm-hmm.
with your family, because sometimes it's difficult to talk to your husband,
Yeah.
or it's a sensitive issue, right? So she said that she had already sorted out the inheritance with her father in a particular way, such that she and her siblings are well protected already, because that was her worry when she was at so those kind of things. There's another lady, even though she's a businesswoman, she was generally living month to month, and she was so drawn out on her credit card. She was so worried she couldn't put her children in university. So again, that one we had to start from scratch, showed her all the mistakes that she was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I mean, at the end of the day, it's up to you.
Yeah.
You have to take the
Exactly.
necessary
Yeah.
steps. But she says she has stabilized herself, and at least she doesn't feel like the fear so much, and now she's starting to accumulate again. So it's very personal stories. I think that is what I would consider
Success.
success.
Yeah.
Not about the company making money or whatever. That's
No.
important, obviously,
Yeah.
but the fact that we know that we have impact on these women, that has been really, really
Wow.
really, it means the world to us. Yeah.
I just love your face that when you're talking about it, because
Yeah.
it's so passionate, and you I mean you we can sense that you truly want this for women.
Yeah. It changes your life.
Yeah,
When you have
I
your
agree.
money sorted out, it changes your life,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
that's why it's very meaningful for us, because then we can see people are happier, people are
yeah.
not as anxious or stressed.
Correct. Which
You hope
already added
that,
when you're on menopause, right? We are
yeah,
already having
exactly.
panic inside.
Menopause is so very expensive. I think we were
I
talking
know.
about it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So one of the things that it's like when you I'm trying to get women to understand that it's not too late, like you said, whether it's dealing with menopause or dealing with your finances. Yes, it's scary, I do not deny it, and I know it's the change to take that step to and all that, but learning is, it should keep evolving and then taking action. And how true it is that you said that no one can force you to change, or no
Yeah.
one can force you to take action, but you can't run and do the same thing and expect different results.
Different outcomes. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that's something I hope listeners, please, this is what we are trying to do here. And I'm bringing, this passionate lady who is talking, putting her time and effort and giving resources that I'm sure is, it doesn't cost an arm and a leg for you to take charge of your financial well-being. So, last words for my listeners. Anything that you like to say?
Oh, just please, at the very least, come and follow us on our socials, because it's not just about taking action, but it's also a build up.
Yeah.
In the more you listen in bite size, the more you get inspired to do something to make a change. So you can make a change in your financial situation. But
Yeah.
also, we have a community. We believe that the sisterhood is very important.
True.
Women who are supporting women
Yeah.
is very important. And sometimes it's just a casual conversation, a cup of coffee, and it changes your whole outlook in terms of how you want to do something,
Yeah.
in terms of what you want to achieve, in terms of how you see your future, in terms of how you want to take charge, right?
Yeah.
So join our community, come on board, and we'll move to bigger and better things.
Wow. Thank you, Sherry. It's listen, thank you so much to listeners today. And please subscribe to Midlife Mojo so that I can, and then give me comments. All the description is below, and make sure to follow us, like us, and give us ideas of what else you would like me to bring forth. And keep growing our community. Until next week, take care. Thanks, Sherry.
Bye. Thank you.